Someone ignored you, left you in silence, read your message, and gave you nothing in return. Looked through you as if you were invisible. And right now, something inside you is burning. Good. Feel it. Sit with it for one final moment. Because after today, you will not experience it the same way again. What they did was not random. It was intentional. A move on the chessboard of human power. They expected you to collapse, to chase, to beg, to send another message, to ask what went wrong. That is what weak behavior looks like. That is what an emotionally dependent mind does when it is deprived of attention. It crawls. But you are not here because you are average. You are here because something inside you refused to bow. Listen carefully. What they handed you was not a wound. It was a weapon. They simply do not realize it yet. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote centuries ago that the greatest victories are won not by those who strike first, but by those who understand when to remain still while the world moves around them. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a throne, and most people are too fragile to sit on it. The moment someone ignores you, they hand you an invisible crown, the crown of indifference. If you are wise enough to wear it, you become the most dangerous person in the room. Not because you are loud, not because you retaliate, but because you no longer care. And there is nothing more unsettling to a manipulator than a person who genuinely does not care anymore. So close the wound. Swallow the last trace of pain. From this moment forward, you are not the person who was ignored. You are the person who learned to turn silence into territory. Empires are not built by those who beg. They are built by those who withdraw and return transformed. Why people ignore you is not what you think. Let's remove the lie you have been telling yourself. You assume they ignored you because you are not enough. You believe something is wrong with you. Too much, too little, too dull, too intense. Stop. That is the trap. That is the psychological cage they want you to enter willingly. The truth is more calculated than your insecurity wants to admit. People do not ignore you because you lack value. They ignore you because they want to control your value. This is psychological strategy at its rawest core. Silence is one of the oldest tools of emotional manipulation. It costs nothing, leaves no visible trace, and yet it can bring even a strong mind to its knees, if that mind does not understand what is happening. When someone ignores you, they are conducting a test. They are measuring your emotional structure. They want to see if you will chase. They want to calculate how much control they have over your nervous system. Every unanswered message, every cold response, every glance that passes over you is a probe sent into your psyche to identify weakness. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology defined it. He wrote that people are driven more by what they fear losing than by what they hope to gain. That is the engine behind being ignored. They want you to fear losing them. They want that fear to convert you into a puppet controlled by silence alone. But here is where the strategy collapses. The moment you understand why they are doing it, the illusion ends. Manipulation survives in darkness. Once exposed, it weakens. Now you see the board clearly. You see their hand. You see the strings. And a person who sees the strings cannot be turned into a puppet again. The Machiavellian rule: never chase, never react. Burn this into your mind. The person who reacts first loses. This is not opinion. This is principle. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler never acts from uncontrolled emotion because emotion becomes the leash others use to pull you wherever they want. Chasing someone who ignored you is emotional, desperate, and self-destructive. Every second message drains authority. Every time you ask why they are distant, you surrender strength. Every time you modify your behavior to regain their attention, you kneel before a throne they neither earned nor deserve. Stop chasing. Stop reacting. Stop investing energy in people who feed on desperation like parasites on a host. The Machiavellian mind operates on a direct rule: control the game or leave the table. There is no middle ground. You do not negotiate with someone who disrespected you through silence. You do not over-explain yourself to someone who refused to listen. You go quiet, not out of spite, not out of revenge, but out of control. Precise, calm, strategic. Stillness is the most aggressive move a disciplined mind can make because it removes the reaction the other person expected. They expected you to break. They expected you to fold. Instead, you gave them nothing. And nothing is the one element a manipulator cannot operate with. They need your emotion like oxygen. Remove it. Let them sit inside the silence they initiated. This is not cruelty. This is strategy. In chess, the player who controls the center without unnecessary movement often holds the advantage. Your stillness is not weakness. It is a declaration wrapped in calm. They may not realize they have lost until much later. Become the void. Understand the power of strategic absence. There is something that unsettles the human mind more than confrontation or insult. It is absence, the complete withdrawal of someone they assumed would remain. Niccolò Machiavelli noted that a ruler who is always available is rarely valued. But the one who withdraws becomes the focus of every conversation he no longer attends. This is your next move. You do not argue. You do not explain. You withdraw. Completely. No partial presence. No subtle signals. You stop appearing where they expect you. You stop viewing their updates. You stop reacting to their world. You become unreachable. Psychology shows that the human mind obsesses over what it cannot access and cannot understand. When you disappear without explanation, you activate both responses. They will revisit old conversations. They will analyze your silence. They will question what changed. And ideally, you will not be thinking about them at all. Strategic absence is not hiding. It is repositioning. You are not escaping the battlefield. You are moving to ground where their tactics no longer function. Every effective strategist understands that sometimes the strongest move is to leave the room and allow absence to achieve what presence never could. You are not disappearing because you are broken. You are stepping away because you are building something they cannot predict. The space you leave will speak louder than argument ever could. Now comes the hardest part. Eliminate the need. Destroy emotional dependency. Everything discussed so far fails if this step is ignored. You can go silent. You can withdraw. You can mirror distance with precision. But if the need for validation still lives inside you, you remain trapped, only pretending to be free. Niccolò Machiavelli warned that a ruler who depends on the approval of others builds on unstable ground. Emotional dependency is exactly that, a structure built on someone else's mood, someone else's attention, someone else's acknowledgement of your existence. Dismantle it. The Stoicism taught a principle many people never fully accept. You control your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. Everything else is external. Yet you have been constructing your emotional stability around whether they reply, whether they notice you, whether their tone shifts from warm to cold. That is not connection. That is dependence. End the need at its source. Do not suppress it. Remove it. When you catch yourself wondering what they think of you, redirect that focus to what you think of yourself. When you feel the urge to check whether they viewed your story, close the phone and open something that strengthens you. When loneliness appears at midnight and their name crosses your mind, let it pass without attachment. Psychology makes one principle clear. The person with the least emotional dependence holds the most influence in any dynamic. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming self-governing. A person who requires nothing can negotiate everything from strength. Your need was the chain. Consider it broken. From this moment forward, your validation comes from one place only, the mirror. And the man looking back at you is the only judge whose verdict has ever truly mattered. Now you understand the game. You see the board clearly. You have gone silent. You have become the void. This is where the edge is sharpened. This is where you stop defending and begin reflecting their own tactics back at them with precision that unsettles their confidence. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that wise rulers do not invent new weapons. They take the weapons of their enemies and use them with greater skill. That is what you are about to do. They used silence against you. Now you will use silence against them. But yours will not be petty. It will not be emotional. It will be controlled, deliberate, exact. When they reach out, and they will, you do not react with excitement. You do not reward them with enthusiasm. You respond later. You respond briefly. You respond with the composure of a man focused on more important priorities. Not rude. Never rude. Rudeness signals emotional instability. You remain polite but distant, warm yet unavailable, present but never fully invested. This is the dark mirror. You show them what they showed you but refined and disciplined. They offered cold silence out of ego. You return measured silence out of strategy. That difference changes everything. Psychology shows that when someone's own tactic is used against them more effectively, it creates internal instability. They feel the loss of control in a dynamic they once managed. That fracture becomes your advantage. This is not revenge. Revenge is emotional. This is recalibration. You are communicating that your energy is no longer free. It must be earned. Those who once dismissed it will eventually realize it is no longer accessible on demand. Rebuild quietly. Let your results speak. Now comes the phase they will not anticipate. While they assume their silence weakened you, that their absence left damage, you will permanently shift the dynamic. You will rebuild. Not publicly. Not for praise. Not for their attention. In silence. Complete, disciplined silence. Niccolò Machiavelli noted that the fox who moves unseen is more dangerous than the lion who announces himself. You become that fox. Every morning without them becomes a morning invested in your foundation. You train your body until it reflects discipline before you speak. You sharpen your mind with knowledge that separates you from those still seeking validation. You strengthen your finances with the planning of a strategist preparing for future battles. You develop skills quietly, and you tell no one. That is critical. You tell no one. The world does not observe your recovery. It does not comment on your transformation in real time. You disappear incomplete and return unrecognizable. Psychology reveals a difficult truth. When someone who was once emotionally available becomes visibly elevated, it creates a cognitive disruption in the mind of the person who dismissed them. They cannot reconcile the version they ignored with the individual now standing before them composed, disciplined, and indifferent. That contrast becomes a powerful statement without a single word spoken. Your development is not just self-improvement. It is strategic evolution. Every book you read strengthens you. Every skill you acquire increases your leverage. Every disciplined habit formed in the aftermath of rejection becomes protection that cannot easily be broken again. Rebuild quietly. Let the outcome speak for itself. And then comes the return effect. They will come back. Not because you pursued them. Not because you pleaded. But because you did the one thing they did not anticipate. You became someone who no longer needed them. Niccolò Machiavelli observed that people return to doors they once walked away from when they realize those doors are no longer open. It is human nature. What we discard often becomes valuable the moment it becomes inaccessible. You completed the work in silence. You removed the dependency. You became the void. Now the person who once treated you as optional returns with softened language and renewed interest. Do not misinterpret this. It is not sudden clarity. It is a shift in power. They felt the change. They sensed the dynamic move beyond their control. Psychology refers to this as the scarcity principle. What becomes unavailable increases in perceived value. You are no longer available. This is where many fail. They allow them back without boundaries. They feel the warmth of renewed attention and forget every lesson learned. Do not repeat that pattern. When they return, you do not punish them. You do not celebrate. You do not slam the door. And you do not open it fully. You stand at the threshold and make one thing clear. The person they left no longer exists here. Someone new occupies that space. Someone who does not require validation or approval to feel complete. You remain polite. You remain composed. But there is distance in your presence that cannot be crossed easily. That distance is strength. It was built through silent mornings, disciplined nights, and every moment you chose growth over crumbs of attention. Let them call. Let them wonder. But access is no longer free. Entry now requires respect. And respect, once broken, takes significant effort to restore. Now we move to the untouchable mindset, emotional armor. Everything so far has been preparation. Strategy, positioning, calculated moves. This is different. This is where you stop playing and become someone no game can influence. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the prepared, not the lucky. What you are building is not luck. It is structure. The untouchable mindset is not performance. It is identity. It is not something you display in front of someone who hurt you and remove in private. It becomes part of you. Your internal framework is rebuilt so that silence, rejection, or withdrawal from anyone cannot disturb your peace. The Stoicism referred to this as the inner citadel, a mental fortress no external event could breach. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire while facing betrayal, illness, and war, yet maintained stability by strengthening his internal world. That is your model. You train yourself to observe without absorbing, to witness disrespect without internalizing it, to watch someone leave and feel only the space they created. This is not numbness. Numbness belongs to the wounded. This is clarity, the highest form of emotional control. Psychology makes one principle clear. A person who cannot be emotionally provoked cannot be manipulated. And a man who cannot be manipulated becomes unpredictable in the best way. He cannot be controlled through silence, withdrawal, or rejection. Those tactics require a target that reacts. You no longer react. You have sealed every wound with discipline. You have replaced every scar with strength. From this point forward, you do not simply ignore those who ignore you. You rise above the entire exchange. You operate on a level where their noise no longer reaches you. That is the untouchable mindset. It is not built overnight. It is forged through painful nights you endured alone and emerged from stronger. Wear it as armor, and it cannot be used against you. The oath of power. You have walked through fire to arrive here. 10 sections. 10 layers of protection reinforced within your mind, your character, your understanding of power. Now you stand at the edge of a version of yourself the person who ignored you will never truly know. This is your oath. Not to me. Not to this video. To yourself. Say it silently, where only you can hear it. I will never again hand my peace to someone who lacks the wisdom to hold it. I will never again chase someone who walked away from what they did not understand how to value. I will never again reduce myself to fit inside another person's approval just to feel acknowledged. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that the man who masters himself has no need to control others, because the world adjusts around disciplined strength. That is who you are now. Not the person who was ignored. Not the one left in silence questioning what went wrong. You are the person who turned silence into position. You took rejection and shaped it into authority. You took indifference, the coldest tool another person can use, and made it your strategy, your protection, and your advantage. There will always be people who try to make you feel small with silence. Let them try. They are throwing stones at a fortress. They are whispering towards someone who no longer depends on their approval. You are untouchable now. Not because you cannot be hurt, but because you have decided with full authority over yourself that you will not be controlled by it. If these words ignited something in you that will not fade, prove it. Leave a comment right now with the words, "I am the silence they will never understand." Let that comment section become a declaration from individuals who choose strength over pain, strategy over emotional reaction, and self-mastery over submission. Let the algorithm recognize that this message reached the right audience. And take one more step. If you stayed until the end, you are not a casual viewer. You are a student of discipline. Press the like button with intention. Subscribe to the channel because this will not be the last time you sharpen this mindset. Turn on notifications so that the next time we build principles like these, you are ready. The world overlooks the average. After today, there is nothing average left in you. Move forward in silence. Let your results speak. Do not look back.